If you bought a Bible with your credit card, is the government watching you as an extremist? I'm here with Tom Grieve. We're going to talk about this. Okay, so folks on Capitol Hill are up in arms because the Treasury Department has asked big banks to turn over information about private citizens in their interactions with stores, if they're buying Bibles, if they're using the word Trump, if they're using the term MAGA, or if they're shopping at Cabela's or Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that. The government is going through private information, private transactions of private individuals to try to determine if, here's where it gets crazy, we are extremists. Am I an extremist because I have a Cabela's credit card? The government may think so. And it crosses over two administrations. It started during the January 6th incident and stuff like that, but nobody ever said when it's going to end. And this kind of surveillance, no warrants, nothing. What's happening out there? Is this still common, Tom?
If the new definition of extremism is owning Bibles and purchasing firearms, I am never going to be able to fly again.
Yeah, I got pulled aside for random extra screening at the airport 3 times in the last week. So when I was traveling down to Nashville, I wonder if, of course, my name is on a list. I mean, not only have I legally purchased many guns, which puts my name on that list, but this is what I do for a living. And I've shopped at Cabela's and I've sent emails that talk about Trump. So people are obviously looking at stuff, but man, it's getting kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a number of questions that kind of come to my mind. One, why are the banks just jumping all in and saying, yep, we'll give you whatever you want? I mean,
Bank of America in particular, that's one that's just turning over lots of information.
I don't know if they're doing this secondary to subpoena, in which case maybe they're legally compelled to do so. I don't know. So maybe they, giving them the benefit of the doubt, sort of, maybe they don't have a choice, right? And I don't know. Maybe they don't have a choice. But maybe they do have a choice, and they're just deciding to arguably invade Americans' privacy just because some federal agent came knocking, and they're like, "Sure, here's the keys. What do you need? Oh, do you want the next thing? You want some of that, right?" That's one big problem, is this blurring line of institutions who are seemingly willing to jump into bed with the government for perhaps extraordinarily political reasons, right? Another question, the obvious question is, okay, once they have that information, what are they going to do with it?
And how long are they going to keep it?
Right. Are you ever coming off one of those shadow lists? Right? Because, I mean, that's just what this feels like to me. This is just a shadow list, right? Of they're going to put together all these markers for extremism. I don't know if you get points. I don't know, like, if you got to cross a threshold.
I might have a lot of points.
You may have a lot of points. Right. I mean, basically, what does that turn into? Is this our new social credit system that we suddenly have now? Have we basically just copied the Chinese Communist Party social credit system, except but in the negative?
Yeah, but quietly, because this is something that's been happening without many people's knowledge. It's just coming to the fore now. This is 3 years after the January 6th debacle and all of the stuff that happened there. And I just want to remind people that there has to be probable cause to get a search warrant, and they're doing all of this stuff as, it looks to me like warrantless searches, but maybe they're saying, well, it's not really a search. We just asked Bank of America or these other companies for this information, and they provided it freely. I don't think there's a lot we can do about that. There's no credit card company that we can go to now that isn't going to help the government.
So this is where you kind of get into those meta searches and so-called metadata, right? Of if we just basically say, okay, banks, credit card processing, credit card companies, all that kind of stuff, right? Here's criteria we're looking for. I want you to search out, and you can scrub the names off of it, that's fine, but give us everybody who has donated to this political party, who has purchased a gun, who has purchased some sort of religious text, and set however many qualifications you want. And then, once we have that data that's out there, are they going to be able to then flip that around and use that to now obtain warrants to now get those people, right? And of course, this belies the fact of what's wrong about owning a firearm? for starters.
Exactly it. And this takes me back to the state of Wisconsin when the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled that the act of carrying a gun openly did not rise to the level of disorderly conduct, because that was a charge. There was no law that said you couldn't carry a gun, but law enforcement officers were stopping people who were open carrying and charging them with disorderly conduct. And the state Supreme Court said, no, that's not disorderly conduct, just carrying a gun. So is just shopping at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I don't know why you would anyway, because they won't even sell AR-15s, but just shopping at Cabela's or Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that, is that reason enough for the government to look into your activities because you bought a Bible, you donated to the Trump campaign, and you shopped at Cabela's, so you were probably buying a gun or ammo? Suddenly that makes you a suspect of what?
I'm sure that some people would say absolutely yes. That makes you a suspect and you need to be supervised and put under surveillance. Like I said, this whole situation raises a lot of concern and a lot of questions. And it should, regardless of whatever side of the political aisle you're from, because we are lurching very rapidly into a society that is all too happy when the government asks you to do something like this, like intrude on people's privacy, if rather than saying, why, make me, to, yeah, sure, what else can I get you? And that's not the country that we were born as, and that's not the country we kind of grew up as, so to speak. But that increasingly feels like the country that we are turning into. Yeah,
absolutely. When we see things like this is just another reminder that, and I'm going to say it, gun owners, well, everyone, but specifically gun owners, need to pay attention to this stuff and need to be politically active and need to be informed and need to take action. They got to get to the polls. They have to vote their conscience. And I don't know how anybody can look at this and say, yeah, that seems okay.
People will, and that's the problem. At a minimum, a bunch of people at some banks and a bunch of people in the government said, this is absolutely okay.
Yeah, and I hate to see it. Thanks always for your insight, Tom.
Thanks, Kevin.
Now, before you go, if you think you're using the right caliber for self-defense, think again. And you might not even know it, but your ammo could be putting you at severe disadvantage when you pull the trigger. Click the link in the description below to watch this short, unbiased video comparing the top 4 self-defense calibers and see if you end up changing handguns.